All right, let's do this.
Let's do it. World of Matchups is back, bringing you guys the heat. This week we are breaking down the NFC East. Vegas decks on one side, Spencer the Wiz on the other. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. Preseason is approaching. This week we talk about what I think is probably one of the worst divisions in all of football, minus the Eagles. But we'll start with the Commanders. Spencer, we'll let you spit, man. We'll let you
Yeah,
get
this
your
is
thoughts on what you think about this team first.
yeah. The Commanders are an interesting team. Can never get used to the Commanders. It doesn't sound right, but yeah. So that they made so many additions, I couldn't even fit it on this page. I mean, I think a quarter of their team it feels like is different. So
Yeah.
I don't know if going all in is the correct way to describe it, but yeah, I mean, quarterback change was huge. So you draft a quarterback of the future. I think you're probably a little bit higher on Jaden Daniels than I am. He kind of has this overall, I mean, he's good, no doubt, but we're talking about being an NFL quarterback. His arm talent is what worries me the most. Like, I think he has the ability to read and process things. I just don't know if he has the arm talent maybe to support being one of the top flight quarterbacks in the NFL. So
Hmm.
we'll have to see. The situation he's going into isn't terrible, but it's also definitely not the best. Now you're going to have your workhorse receiver, of course. So you have your star receiver. It's the depth that I'm thinking may be a little bit of an issue for them. They bring in Austin Eckler, pretty meek on that. I mean, I know he's a name, but I think he's becoming more of a name as the years go on. I mean, he just looks like he runs in cement sometimes, especially last year at certain points. Maybe it was a health thing. I'm not sure, but it'll be a safety blanket for him, that's for sure. But I definitely don't expect him to suddenly be like the Austin Eckler who produces like a gajillion, yards as like the ultimate fantasy running back again. I would be shocked. I'm staying away from him when it comes to my drafts. Dante Fowler, that's just like one of them. I know they brought in Jerjon Newton. He was one of the guys in the draft who I really liked too. So I guess like a positive offseason, no doubt, right? You can't say that they got worse. They objectively got better. They had Sam Howell last year, decided not to go with him again. I think they just like couldn't, maybe because of the situation in this year's draft. Some guys left. Curtis Samuel, a little bit of depth there. I kind of like him. I think he's a good depth piece. Kendall Fuller, a few other names on their list, but yeah, I mean, this is just kind of a middle of the road team. They can make as many additions in the offseason as they want, but it's not going to change the fact that this was not a good football team last year. An improved football team for them this year. I don't really know what that truly amounts to because you're essentially starting from the bottom. I mean, I guess like the one game that really sticks out in my mind last year, and you can't really judge a team based on one game, but it's hard to forget. And that was that Thanksgiving game they had.
The
I mean, you could
Cowboys.
just see, yeah, the Cowboys game. You could just see like a defeated team. I don't know, like a team that was so far away from like being close to like being a playoff team that yeah, I look down this list and I'm like, is this really the difference between them challenging for a playoff spot and not? And to I guess even it out, it's not to say that you can just change a team from being horrible to a playoff team in one off season. I guess the Bears are technically trying to do that, but I think they had a much better off season than the Washington Commanders overall. Just kind of meh to me. I guess that's really the best way to describe the Commanders. We'll have to see, the excitement that you get out of a new quarterback. But when I try to like think outside of that, and I feel pretty confident that he's going to struggle at certain points in the season, I just see another year of the Washington football team, which I feel like they should have just kept. Like it sounds more natural to me to say the Washington football team, but I think if they um this is like a 5-win team to me. I mean, it just nothing truly excited to happen to them in the offseason outside of the quarterback position. It was just okay.
Yeah, they're going to be bad. All right, let's make no mistake about this, folks. The Washington Commanders are going to be bad. Now, bringing in Jaden Daniels is to me the de facto correct pick. It was either him or May, and I think Daniels is going to be actually pretty good for them. I am a little bit higher on him than you are because he has weapons. Okay, he's got weapons, and he had weapons in college, and you saw what happened. And Terry McLaurin is still pretty good. I really like Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson has, he's got talent. I'm not a big fan of the Austin Eckler move. I think Austin Eckler is washed. Quite frankly, man, the fall of Austin Eckler needs to be studied.
It's just the running back position, I think, more than
This needs to be
anything.
studied. I mean, this is a guy that was looking for top dollar like not
Yeah.
that long ago, and now he's like on a $3 million deal to play for one of the worst teams in football. In comes Dan Quinn. I like Dan Quinn as a DC. I don't know about an HC, but we're gonna find out. I mean, Brian Robinson, middle of the road running back with potential. Defense not very good. Emmanuel Forbes, okay. I do like the addition of Ben Stinnott. I think I'm pronouncing Sinnott. Yeah, he was really good in college. Show some promise. Zach Ertz to me is washed. It's time for Zach Ertz to retire. I mean, this is the deal with the Commanders, okay? And it all really started with Daniel Snyder as being one of the worst owners in all of football, with one of the worst stadiums in all of football, with one of the worst front offices in all of football. I mean, Ron Rivera did all he could. I mean, they're just not good. You changed the name, and ever since that, I mean, that's just been the downfall of this team. There's really not much going on there. They're not cooking with gas at all. And they are basically just a middle of the road NFL team. They're one of these teams in the NFL. They're going to do everything they can to just make a little bit of money because they're not making the playoffs. They're not making the playoffs. They're not really bringing teams in that you can actually be like, well, this is their Super Bowl. I mean, what's the Redskins rivalry? What's the Commanders rivalry? Like, what's there to galvanize you? If you're a fan of the Washington Commanders, dude, what's your motivation? You know what I mean?
Well,
What's your motivation?
their organization is garbage. I mean, just the way
Absolute,
that it's yeah.
absolute trash.
Do you
Uh,
remember this? I'm gonna show it on screen. Do you remember when they revealed a Sean Taylor statue and everyone was like
yeah,
really excited
oh
about it?
yeah,
Dude,
like
look how many people there are in this. I mean, it is packed in there. They're excited. This is one of the hallmarks, of their franchise. And they announced this big Sean Taylor statue, and then take a look at it. Oh my the best part about it actually they did do the helmet, but the bottom part you see here is a modern Nike jersey. They
it's
didn't I mean
horrendous.
that is just so Washington Commanders,
I mean,
it's
whoever was in charge of that whole PR stunt, I'm hoping they're not still employed because, I mean, that's absolutely terrible. What really worries me is their defense. Their offensive line isn't horrendous. I mean, Nick Algretti leaves the Chiefs because he wants to start. He's got his rings, he wants his money, so that's not a
yeah.
bad Swiss Army knife guard piece. Andrew Wiley's kind of old. I mean, Brandon Coleman's your left tackle. I mean, I see Jaden Daniels running for his life. I do. There's no one on that defense that really galvanizes me. Deron Payne, Dante Fowler. I mean, those guys are okay. Deron Payne is okay, I guess. Emmanuel Forbes is undersized. I'm just not in love with anything they have at all. At all. Like, there's nothing about the Commanders that I can at least be like, well, they've got this, and they're in a division where I think everybody got better. Giants got better. Phillies on their way back to the Super Bowl. I mean, what are we working with here in Washington? Not much as far as I'm concerned. Antonio Gibson leaves. I don't know. There's really not much else to say about this horrendous garbage team. I mean, they are trash. They're trash. Let's see what we're working with here. What's their home? Are they in white or
So
black?
the dark out ones are away games, so they start
Okay.
out on the road.
So they're going to start out with Tampa. Okay, they're going to probably lose to Tampa. Tampa Bay will in a playoff game. Tampa Bay still has good pieces. Tampa Bay's defense is better than advertised, and they're home. I mean, I just can't see them winning that game. Then they come home for their home opener versus the Giants. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that
Mm.
they get their home opener. The Giants are trash, but these are two trash teams. When I have two trash teams, I take the team at home. Then they go Monday Night Football. They're gonna get destroyed by absolutely destroyed by the Bengals. That's not a game they should be in. Now, after this first three games here, Spencer, we should have a decent sample size of what Jaden Daniels really is.
It's hard to tell. I mean, it
And
really
it
is a
really
mystery.
is hard to tell. Because if you get Jaden Daniels that was throwing to Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., if you're getting the same Jaden Daniels who is throwing to Jahan Dotson and Scary Terry, they could be in some of these games. Their offense is not really what I'm worried about. It's their defense. They can't stop anybody, man. I mean, this team can't stop a nosebleed. They're going to
Yeah,
give up
that's why I don't like them
a
in this Cardinals game.
lot of points. And so then they have like the Cardinals. They're going to lose that game to the Cardinals, bro. They're going to lose to the dog pound too. And then they're going to lose to the Ravens right after that. I think they stop the hemorrhaging here somehow, some way. They're going to beat the Panthers. Now, let's just be honest here, guys. I think the Panthers are better. And I think Bryce Young's going to have a bounce back season. Bryce Young had no help yet last year.
He can't go down, that's for sure.
The arrow is pointing up for the Panthers. I
Yeah.
think they're going to win that game. They'll lose to the Bears. They'll lose to the Giants. They'll lose to the
I think
Steelers.
they'll split with the Giants. I don't think the Giants are so good at this.
They're gonna split with the Giants, but they're gonna win that home game. They're gonna lose in the Meadowlands.
Yeah.
They're gonna lose to the
Yeah.
Steelers. They're gonna lose to the Eagles. They're gonna lose to the Cowboys. They're gonna
They
lose
got
to
a
the
tough schedule.
Titans, and then they go to the bye week. My goodness, come off the bye. Do I dare give them a win versus the Saints? I can't see that either, man.
I don't
Saints
know. I
are
mean, I think Derek Carr could be benched by the time that Saints games rolls around.
will
And
never happen. Spencer Rattler ain't ready to play, bro. They brought
yeah,
him
but if
in.
their season is over, I mean, I think they're
Yeah,
willing to just chuck in anybody at that point.
I mean, I think they're gonna lose every one of their last games. Saints, Eagles, Falcons,
These are all playoff
Cowboys.
teams, or at least borderline playoff teams.
Folks, this is really what it boils down to. I'm gonna set the over under at 4.5. Spencer's gonna tell me what it is based on Vegas.
Yeah.
I
Let me pull it up.
believe that this easily could be a team that loses 13 to 14 games. And I don't care how good Jaden Daniels is going to be because their defense can't stop anybody. They let
Yeah, they
Sweat
got like
go.
mm,
Sweat's gone. You know what I mean? Like they had that other bum, Chase Young. I mean, he was still a decent. I mean, he's more than a camp body. I know Chase Young has underperformed, but he's been jettisoned. They're in rebuilding mode, man. And look, it starts with the front office on down.
wow, 6.5 wins on the season.
Guys, I'm sorry. I don't see 6 wins here. Let me tell you something. I'm taking the Washington Commanders and I'm teasing them with the Minnesota Vikings and I'm banging the under on both. And if you don't see me anymore, it's because I'm on a yacht somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't see 6 wins. What are the 6 wins? Where's 6 wins on this schedule?
They're gonna have to steal games like the Cleveland game, the Arizona game.
Any
That's
win outside of the Giants, they're gonna have to steal. They're not splitting with the Cowboys. They're not splitting with the Eagles. And their out of division schedule is hard. Titans, Steelers. Okay, I'll give them the win. I'll give them the win versus Bryce Young and the Panthers. Fine. But like Cardinals, Tampa, they're catching all these teams at the wrong time in the wrong building. None of them are in their building. And it's early. I just don't see it. 6 wins, my God, I might faint here. That's horrible. I don't know. I don't see a really sunny day anytime soon for the Washington Commanders at all. I'm not going to say any more about them. They're not very good and not really worth pontificating more about. I think their over under being 6 is an absolute joke.
let's talk about another team that is a football franchise. That's the New York Giants. So, I mean, they had a pretty good offseason, all things considered, I guess, at least in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I
I mean, yeah, they
guess.
lose Saquon Barkley, understandably. It's pretty rough, but I am in the corner of paying running backs a gajillion dollars is never a good idea. It essentially never is. It's unfortunate the way that it ended up happening, I guess, but at the end of the day, I think financially for them, it'll end up working out to not
Mhm.
pay Saquon Barkley. So But yeah, that is production on the field, no doubt. So
I
you
mean,
also have to factor that
if you
in.
don't want to win, I mean,
uh,
if you don't want to win, yeah.
so they brought in a great defensive lineman, Brian Burns. He was
Hmm.
buried on the Panthers for years, but he's one of the best defensive linemen in all of football, no doubt, in my mind. You know, they brought in Malik Neighbors, so finally, I mean, when was the last time they had a wide receiver one? It was probably Odell Beckham
Odell,
Jr. Yeah,
Odell
it's been
Beckham
that long,
Jr.
which is crazy to go that long
Hmm.
without one, but
Yeah.
they did, and through all reports now, whatever camp reports are worth, he looks really good. And I've seen some tape. The kid looks good. They brought in a little offensive line help from the Raiders, Jermaine Elamure. He's pretty decent, so he'll start on their line somewhere. He's kind of another one of those Swiss Army knife kind of guys where I'm sure he'll probably shift around as the season goes along, wherever they need him. So very, very good positives. They did lose some guys. I mean, Xavier McKinney is definitely not is one of the better safeties in the league, I would say. So not a vastly improved or vastly bad team, I guess, where they got worse. Just somewhere in the middle, probably stayed about even. But for the Giants, that's terrible. I mean, this is a bad football team that essentially stagnated, all things considered, I would say. And obviously, the entire season is riding on a quarterback who they don't believe in the first place, Daniel Jones. I'm truthfully not as much of a hater on Daniel Jones as the average Joe. I think he's gotten the short end of the stick playing for a terrible franchise that has never done anything for him. And it's probably to the point where there's a point where a quarterback's development gets stunted because of the situation, or they just lose all of their confidence and they're never able to get it back, or they just like miss out on these very important developmental years coming into the league. It feels that way with Daniel Jones. I mean, we've seen it before. A successful Daniel Jones taking them to the playoffs, and he played well during that season.
Hmm.
But I don't know if you're ever going to see that ever again. Kind of in a way, and they're not the exact same situation because it wasn't necessarily injury focused, but like when Derek Carr had his bad injury and he came back,
He
and
was
you're
never
just
the
like,
same.
you're just waiting for that guy to come back. It's
Yeah.
like everyone's waiting for that Daniel Jones to come back that they saw when they made that playoff run. And I just don't know if it exists. This isn't a pretty this is just like the definition of an average team, and I think we're going to see a lot of average play this year. Maybe
Hmm.
slightly better. I feel like, having a star wide receiver in Malik Neighbors cancels out Saquon Barkley a little bit. This is a guy who's barely been on the field, too, by the way. We're not just talking football is so much more than pure talent. The best ability is availability, and Saquon
Amen.
Barkley was just never available for them. So it's almost like it doesn't make a difference on the team because the guy just wasn't there enough to make an impact season long. And now you got a young kid in Malik Neighbors who's going to be there on essentially every down. So I think that's a net positive for them. But I don't know if it's enough. I mean, this is just a team that is like just okay. Just a bunch of guys floating around trying to get some wins. They're going to stick in games here and there. I just don't have a lot of confidence in them overall.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, and it's kind of sad too because I'm from New York and I grew up rooting for the Giants. Giants are my dad's team. You know what I mean? I kind of followed them, I don't know, in my younger years, and to see what's happened to this great storied franchise post the Eli Manning era. I mean, it's unfortunate. I think it all started when they benched Eli Manning for Geno Smith
Yeah.
on the West Coast. It's just nothing good has come of the Giants franchise since then. And I think one of the worst decisions in franchise history for them was paying Daniel Jones. Now, when you look at what he's getting paid versus what these new guys are getting paid, I mean, Jordan Love just got
Yeah.
55 million, which is absolutely egregious and dumb as hell. You know what I mean?
Tua.
Tua just got paid however many million. I mean, are any of these guys really that much better than Daniel Jones? I mean, Daniel Jones has a playoff win on the road. That year they overachieved and went to Minnesota and beat Jets and the Vikings. Dude, they had a good season. Brian Dable is a good coach. He is a good coach. But there is no denying the whole PR fallout and the hard knocks fallout from the loss of
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley is going to come back to haunt them. And me personally, I would not have paid Daniel Jones and I would have paid Saquon. That's just me. Now I get that Saquon Barkley was hurt a lot, but I mean you never really fortified him with a decent offensive line to work with, so he's always getting hurt because of that. And I'm here to tell you that Saquon Barkley is going to go scorched earth behind that revamped Eagles line. He's going to go scorched earth, and I think it's a shame because how they handled the negotiations was piss poor. Now Daniel Jones is coming back for a major injury, and you're expecting Malik Neighbors to be Jerry Rice. That's what you're holding your season on. Now,
Yeah.
are they as bad as the Commanders? No, they're not. I
No.
mean, they have a decent defense, man. Kayvon Thibodeau is very good. Dexter Lawrence is very good. We mentioned Brian Burns earlier, very good. You know what I mean? They have some promise there. There's some pieces there. The problem with this team is that in order to sustain drives, you need to run the ball. And Devin Singletary is not a three down back. I mean, who do you have? That's it. That's a huge hole that Saquon Barkley left, and this is not an air raid team. And they have air raid pieces. So are they going to have to change their identity? I mean, I've been seeing a couple clips of Daniel Jones airing it out. Is he going to still run as much as he used to now that he's been injured? Are we going to finally see the ascension of guys like Jalen Hyatt? You know what I mean? Guys like Wandale Robinson. I mean, they just have a bunch of receivers. Is Isaiah
That's
Hodgins
what I'm
still there? They just have a mash unit of guys, man.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of
And,
dudes.
and the cherry on the top is Darren Waller retired to go rap after Kelsey Plum dumped his ass. I mean, like, you could not make up a worse storyline for a team that beat Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl.
I think
It's
there's so much more
insane.
to this Aaron Waller story than we'll ever know.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Darren
Because
Waller's story is unreal. I mean, and kudos to him for changing his life and getting his act together. But I'm
but
telling you,
I don't know, man. I think that he I don't know. I mean, I hate to speculate, but there were some really weird TikToks that came out where he looked just like insane, kind of.
yeah, he's
And
out there,
but he's
man.
this golden child for the NFL, right? Like they had a whole thing for him. Like he can't mess up. He can't, they lifted him up. You know what I mean? As this
They
golden
really
child.
raised him.
And I think they're hiding a lot of stuff that went on. But I think
Could be, could be, and it's sad too because I like
oh
Darren
yeah,
Waller. I mean, I've got a story very similar to his, so my heart was always with him and wanting to see him excel and do well. But after the whole Kelsey Plum incident, I mean, once he got traded from the Raiders, his career basically was over. I mean, how many snaps did he even take for the Giants? And so that's like the icing on the cake for NYG. I don't think they're going to be very good, but I think they'll be better than the Commanders. They do have Tyrone Tracy that they brought in. I like him. I think Tyrone Tracy will end up being their number one running back when it's all said and done going into next year. You do have the Tommy DeVito. Every Italian person, who was a Giant fan in all the tri-state area was galvanized behind that. Shirts, tickets, the Sopranos on the field. I mean, like, okay, like, but like, do you want to win games? Do you want to win games? And what I fear is going to happen, sadly, is that this might cost Brian Dable his job. It might. Because what kind of leash does he have? You know what I mean? Does he have a
it
lot more
hasn't really been
rope?
talked about. But I feel like this year they got to see something out of it, a
This
little
is
bit more
they.
than last year.
I think his job hangs in the balance of Daniel Jones' arms and legs, which is
He was a part of the extension, right? Like he was on the team when they extended Daniel Jones. I'm pretty sure.
so
So
means you
he
signed off
obviously
on
has
that.
some sort of say in there. Yeah, he
Signed off
signed
on
off on it
that,
on
bro.
some level.
That's going to be a tough sell. Week one, home versus the Vikings. I'm willing to give them that W, even though I think
Yeah.
Jets is going to carve them up. You know what I mean? They play these guys well. They're home, and let me tell you something else about the Giants and their fans. Their fans show up. Let me tell you, I've been a million games in the Meadowlands. Their fans show up. Dude, Big Blue is a real thing. The blue wave is a real
Well, I mean, it
thing.
wasn't. They're not too far removed from when the team was, pretty good. I mean,
It's
won
a
Super
real
Bowls.
thing,
Not
man.
that far
I mean,
removed.
like they've got Michael Strahan, Lawrence Taylor, Phil Simms. You know what I mean? Like Eli Manning. Like it's not like they're some bum squad, dude. They got rings. Okay, so their people show up. I could see a world where they start off the season 2-0, going to the Commanders and getting that win. If one thing I know over the last couple of years, the Giants go to Washington and win all the time. They win all the time there. I think they go to the dog pound and lose their first game, and then I think they lose their second game to the Cowboys in back-to-back weeks. October 6th, they head to Seattle. I don't think they're going to win that game either. Seattle's tough at home, man, and they're a revamped ball club with an air raid and a new OC who's throwing the ball all over the field, and the Giants' corners are trash. Same thing's going to happen when they have to play the Bengals, and then the Eagles, then the Steelers. I mean, literally, man, the bleeding isn't going to be hard to stop here. Like, I think they're going to have to sweep the Commanders, which I'm not so sure they will. And then they have the Carolina Panthers before their bye. So I see 2 to 3 wins. They may start off hot, but they're going to fizzle quick.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay, they should win that game. I'm going to give them that win versus Tampa. I'm going to go ahead and
Mm.
do it. It's home. They're going to lose versus Dallas. I think they're going to beat the Saints in their building. Here's one that could be interesting. Because every year a really, really good team lays an egg, man. And I could see a world where, like, if the Baltimore Ravens don't really come back to what they were last year, they're going to disappoint some people. I think the Giants could steal that game, man. I really do. By this time, Tyrone Tracy's probably going to be in the backfield. They'll have a running game going. They play. Let me tell you, they play hard at home, man. Giants play very hard at home. I think they'll go and lose to the Falcons. I think they'll beat the Colts at home, and then they'll end their season versus the Eagles. I see 5 wins. That's what I see. I see 5 wins. Over under is probably 7.5.
Let's see. I'm trying to find it on my list right now. You say 5.5. The win total for the New York Giants is 6.5.
I'm gonna go under, man.
I don't feel
I,
strongly one way or another, but I don't know. I hate betting on average teams like this.
I don't know.
Because if you're betting the over, then you're just like begging them to get 7 wins.
They have to
I
be
don't know,
they
man.
in order for them to cash that OU, Spencer, they're gonna have to either split with Dallas, beat the Bengals at home, or beat the Ravens at home. And honestly, they could lose all
They'd
3
have
of
to
those
sweep
games.
Washington too. I
And
mean,
they'll
you're
have to
assuming they're
sweep
sweeping
Washington,
Washington.
and we don't know what Jaden Daniels is. Jaden
I don't
Daniels
know.
literally could be mini Cam Newton. He could be. Or he could be a mixture of like Cam Newton and like Michael Vick. He could be, man. Like, I mean, let's not deny what we saw in college. I mean, it doesn't translate to the NFL, but in some ways it kind of does. He's got weapons.
He's a wild card
He's a wild card for
because he
sure,
he got a
man.
lot of momentum going into the draft. Like we weren't even talking about Jaden Daniels
He's
for a
got a
long time
lot
now.
of hype going into fantasy drafts, a lot of
Yeah.
dynasty. I just did a dynasty draft, dude. He went like the first 2 rounds. You know what I mean? People are on Jaden Daniels. And so that's the Giants. I'm not in love with anything they're doing, but I do love the coach. Up next.
All right, let's go to a team that I guess I'm just not even super stoked on, the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, this is a team that didn't do anything in the offseason.
They're
Now,
the worst
I always talk
offseason.
about this. I do not like to be a prisoner of the moment. Like like whoever wins the offseason does not mean they're going to win the Super Bowl. So like you don't have to be like, "Oh, they didn't do anything, so that means, they're a terrible team." Like the Chiefs just kind of pick up guys here and there. They never have massive off seasons. It's a lot of tooling, but I don't know. The Cowboys are really pushing that concept to the limit here. I mean, they bring back Ezekiel Elliott. That just tells me that their head's in the wrong place. I mean, what are you doing? This guy stinks. He's I've heard bad things about him personally, and there's like documented ones, and then I also have like other sources that don't tell me positive things about the guy. I mean, I don't know what he's gonna bring to them. I don't think it's good to bring him back in the locker room. This is like a Jerry Jones ass move to bring back a guy who he likes. Eric Kendricks is a decent linebacker. They draft Tyler Guyton, who I have questions about. Could be
Mm-hmm.
good. They lost what I believe to be a Hall of Fame lineman, Tyron Smith. They lost one of their veteran linebackers as well, Leighton Vander Esch. So I'm
He's
not going to
always
say
hurt, though.
I'm not going to say they're a significantly worse team, but
They
I'm
are.
definitely not going to say that they're better.
They're not better.
This is a team that I don't just loses at home in the playoffs. I mean, it's just so easy to forget. There were times in the regular season in the past 2 years where, like, man, this team is going to make a run at the Super Bowl. I don't know if I ever believed they were going to win the Super Bowl, but it's just that first round of the playoffs comes in, and you're like, well, this is the year that they're just going to finally have a great home game because they're unstoppable at home. They look literally
Mhm.
unbeatable. I think they're like undefeated at home for like nearly 2 years now, or like, oh, like they has to be over 90% win percentage. I mean, they look unstoppable in Dallas.
Because they play tomato cans.
Yeah,
That's
and
why.
I guess you're just going to see the same thing this year. Uh,
I don't
I
think
do
so.
see them regressing. But this is still, in my mind, like a 10-win team at least. So
Mm.
it's so hard to get excited about them. It's Jerry Jones's team. You're gonna have the headlines. You're gonna have some big wins here and there, but I don't know. I think the cracks are starting to show. They can't get any of their contracts figured out. This is just such a Cowboys ass offseason.
It's a
That's it.
mess.
That's all you can say about the Cowboys. This is
It's a
a
mess.
Dallas Cowboys average offseason.
Yep. No team had a worse offseason than the Dallas Cowboys. None. And no team had a worse draft. It just spilled into their draft, and now it's spilling into the regular part of their offseason and into their training camp. I mean, you have to figure this out. Dak wants to get paid. CeeDee Lamb wants to get paid. You're going to have to pay. I mean, literally, in order for them to get paid what the market price is asking for, you're going to have to make them both the number one player at their position. And then what about Micah Parsons? There's not enough money in the world to pay all these guys. And so that's a huge problem. None of them are signed. Guys are holding out. You bring Zeke back. Zeke is done. I mean, what you have behind Zeke. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Rico Dowdle, and Deuce Vaughn shouldn't even be in the NFL. He's in the NFL because his dad is executive for the Dallas Cowboys. So there's nepotism. That's LeBron style right there. And then Jerry Jones did his dad a favor and brought him in. Look, I've said this before, and I really truly believe this: the Dallas Cowboys won't win anything of substance until Jerry Jones is buried. That's just the bottom line. You can't have an owner that's the coach, GM. It doesn't work out, man. You guys got to know how to play their positions. And let me tell you, the best thing that happened to Tony Pollard was getting out of there. You know what I mean? Like, they're just going to be so much worse than people think. Now, they win at home a lot because they play the Commanders twice. They play the Giants twice. I mean, they play bums, but we'll look at their out of division schedule and see if you really still feel that way about their 10 wins. Now, they lose a huge lineman in Teron Smith. The Tylers are going to be okay. I don't love Tyler Guyton, but they had to make a good pick there. I do like Jake Ferguson because they're going to have no one else to throw the ball to. Who's the Cowboys' second receiver? Dude, Brandon Cooks is as old as Joe Biden. Forget that guy. You know, Michael Gallup is gone. You know, Jalen Tolbert has not done a thing since he's been in the NFL. I mean, we could just keep going on and on and on and on and on. Now, is their defense going to continue to be the defense that we saw last year? Because they had moments where, like, they beat up on everybody, but when they played the big boys, when they went to San Francisco and Kittle shredded them, you know what I mean? When they stunk it up at home versus Green Bay in their own building, I mean, like, they're not good. The Dallas Cowboys are fool's gold, and their fans are idiots, man. I'm sorry. I have not seen a fan base hang on a Super Bowl win like the Dallas Cowboys fans hang on their Super Bowl. And let's be honest, man. And I'm seeing this happen even in my own friend group, where diehard Dallas Cowboy fans, they're jumping ship to the Houston Texans. They're jumping ship. They're all Houston Texans fans now. Why? Because they've had enough. Leighton Van Der Esch is nothing but a walking injury. He was Sean Lee 2.0. I think Deron Bland is overrated, man. Okay, so you had a nice pick six every other game, but like
He got shredded, dude.
when it
He got
mattered, it you got shredded. Trevon Diggs got hurt. They're not going to be the same team, man. What
He's
happened
another one
last
of those pick or bust kind of guys that, like, they have two corners like that. It hurts them.
Guys, as long as the Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers continue to ascend, the Dallas Cowboys have no shot of winning a Super Bowl because they can't win in the playoffs. They don't have the intestinal fortitude to win. They're not man enough to win. They don't have a coach that can get them there. And now you have to deal with the Detroit Lions as well. It's over for this team, man. That window is shut. I think Dak is going to either rob them and stay and be horrible or be on the Raiders next year. I could see him. I mean, he's already talking.
Uh,
I saw an interview with Dak yesterday where like he was just basically talking like he knew he was going to be leaving.
really? Yeah, I could see
See if
him
you
being on
can
the Raiders
find
next year
it.
too. We've been talking about that for years.
See if you can find it. It's out there. It's all over the place. I mean, he's just kind of like, yeah, well, some of the greats have played for multiple teams. Like he's basically like writing the script for it because he knows that they're not going to pay him. And you cannot make Dak Prescott the highest paid quarterback in the NFL history. I mean, look at what they did with Jordan Love. The Packers are going to regret that. The Dolphins are going to regret paying Tua. I get that you feel like you have to. I mean, like if I had a kid right now, if I had a young kid, I'd be putting him in football camp. That's all he would do. His whole life would be about becoming a football player and making it to the NFL. Because you could be average and make $60 million by the time that came up. It's absolutely egregious.
No,
And
I,
so I,
I, I just I found this. You want to watch this real quick? I'm
yeah,
curious to know what he said.
throw it up there. You're gonna laugh.
Yes. If you, this was like Robert Griffin. He's saying that essentially that Dak Prescott's talking as if, oh, you know what? I gotta 1 second. Sorry, I gotta reshare the screen so I get the audio to come through. All right,
It's
Dak, what do you got to say?
Obviously, I want to be here. Talking about growing up, this is where I've become a man. So, but at the end of the day, it's a business, and
He looks defeated.
when I'm gonna say,
He doesn't want to, but he's
I want
going
to be
to.
here. But when you look up, all the great quarterbacks I watched played for other teams. So my point in saying that is that's not something to fear. That may be a reality for me one day. May not be my decision. So that's the freedom that I have is be where your feet are, make the most of it, be confident in yourself, make your team better. I love my teammates. I love that locker room. I love everything about being out here in Oxnard and being a Dallas Cowboy. So that's what allows me to be free and focused and understand that when time comes, who knows what comes. As I said, I've been through a
he's
lot of
gone.
adversity
He's acting like he's packing his bags or
Mm.
something.
He's gone, bro. I'm sorry.
Jeez, he's got the
Can
moving van outside of the
you
practice facility.
imagine? Can you imagine, dude? No starting quarterback that is in love with where their position is on that team would ever say such things. He cannot wait to get out of there because he sees the writing on the wall. You lose egregious games in the playoffs over and over and over. I mean, he's already loaded. These players are already loaded. They're just trying to get more loaded because this is the big contract. Dak is 30, guys. This is it.
Uh,
This is his big contract. And so Dallas doesn't give it to him. He's going to get it somewhere else. And he's going to ball out this year. Let me tell you something. They have no running game to speak of. They're going to be throwing the ball all over the field. So his stats
yeah.
going to be there. And if CD holds out for any long period of time, they are done. The Dallas Cowboys are done, man. This schedule, week 1. That is
I,
at that is at the dog pound. They're not winning that game, dude.
I don't think so.
They're
I
not.
could see a world where CD Lamb doesn't even make it to week 1 and they get blown to smithereens.
Well, if this agent is smart, that's what he's telling them to do. Just hold out for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Take
I
the
mean
fines.
that's what
Take the
what's his name
fines.
did last year for the Chiefs, and
Yeah.
they lost that week 1, and he got
They
signed the
signed
next
him.
week.
He got signed on the way home in the limo.
Yeah,
Okay, with his agents right next to him. So I could see that happening. Week 2, they should beat the Saints. They're
yeah.
gonna lose to the Ravens, I think, man. It wouldn't surprise me to lose to the Giants week 4, but I'll give them that win. They're going to lose to the Steelers week 5. They're going to lose to the Lions week 6. And then they're on the bye. They're going to come off the bye and they're at San Francisco. They're going to get shredded again. We know this. They'll probably beat the Falcons. They're going to probably beat the Eagles. They play the Eagles well in Dallas. I'll give them that win. I think they'll turn around and lose to the Texans. I think they will beat the Commanders. I think they will beat the Giants at home. I think they will lose to the Bengals. I think they will beat the Panthers. I think they will beat Tampa. And I think they will lose at Philadelphia and then finish their season with a win versus Washington. So I don't see a whole lot of consistency here. I see win 2, lose 1, win 1, lose 3. It's not going to make for a good season. I think they could win 8 games. I don't think their over under will hit. I don't think they're as good as people think they are. I just don't, man. I think what you saw last year on the field to end the season is more of reality of what they truly are than an anomaly of what just kind of happened. I mean, who are the stars on the Green Bay Packers? You know what I mean? For you to get throttled at home by 4 touchdowns is absolutely egregious when the whole world is watching. And now Dak's body language, and then Micah Parsons wants his money. You know what I mean? And CD's holding out, and Mike McCarthy hasn't won a big game since he won one with Green Bay, and everyone's still holding on to that one. I mean, enough. I think they're the most overrated team in the National Football League, and I'll never back off that. And you Cowboys fans, you can be mad, and you can come for me all you want. Search your feelings. This is factual information. Your team chokes in big games. You can beat up on all the tomato cans you want. What's the over under?
9.5.
I'm going under, man. I think they win 9 games. I think they're a wild card this year. Detroit has now ascended past them in my mind as far as strength of team, and I think it's going to come down to the Niners, the Lions, and the Eagles. And I think Dallas is on the outside looking in. They're really not that good, man. Body language tells me everything I want to know. And that interview we just watched with Dak, that's the nail in the coffin. And I just hate
Yeah.
to say it, man, because Jerry Jones, is Jerry Jones. I don't wish nothing bad on anybody. I don't, man. The guy's old, though. And he has had his spoon stirring this pot for way too long. And it's the reason I believe in my heart of hearts why they just know they don't win. I don't want my owner meddling in my team. That's what you hire a GM and a coach for. Clark Hunt only speaks when he absolutely needs to. Otherwise, Mark Donovan, Brett Veach, and Andy Reid handle it. He sits back and counts his money. He sits back and signs checks. That's it.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones is all in the war room. What are
You
you
know
doing?
he is.
What are
He's
you
he's at the center, like, piece
What
of
are
the
you
war room.
doing? Like that Deuce Vaughn pick, you could have picked a quality player there, man. Instead, you pick a 5'5" running back. This is what I'm talking about, man. This is what I'm talking. He took Mozzie Smith. I mean, now Mozzie did have a good year last year, but I still don't love him. I think there's better talent they could have had. But what do I know? I'm sitting behind a computer, and I mean, like, anyway, that's the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not in love with them. On to the Eagles, the Sheagles. I'll let you spit
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, I mean, they had a big off season. Of course, they bring in Saquon Barkley. Uh yeah, I mean, Saquon Barkley is good. This is the best team, obviously, he'll ever have played on. He's got to stay healthy. But besides the fact that, I don't know. I mean, this was not a team that ran the ball enough last year. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like there were times where I saw the Eagles' run game look unstoppable. And I just felt like they focused too much on the pass when it's like they could be the best rushing offense in the entire NFL.
Yes, sir.
I think back to the one of the early DeAndre Swift weeks. Who DeAndre Swift had some weeks where he looked like the greatest running back in the NFL, and I think that's more evident of their line. So I guess when you combine those things together, that's good. But at the same time, they're gonna have to focus in on that run game more. Jalen Hurts is limited as a quarterback, in my opinion. I mean, there were times last year people were talking about how they're running like a borderline high school offense. You know, it was just so simple. And I know they're going to make some adjustments this season.
It's a
I'm
brand
high
new
on
offense.
them. Yeah, I mean, they bring in Mekhi Becton too, which we'll see. The guy has been battling with like some horrific injuries, but if he plays at his best, you have talking about one of the best offensive linemen like ever, essentially. They bring in Devin White. You know, I love what they did in the draft. They did everything. I mean, this is you cannot say anything else. This is a very improved football team for a team that I think just kind of looked too far ahead last year. Maybe that's the best way to describe it. They came off the Super Bowl. They thought, all right, let's go right back. But then you forget there's a whole regular season and there's teams that are desperately looking for wins every week. And I think they kind of lost sight of that. You got to take it 1 week at a time. And this was an Eagles team I felt like just didn't do that. And eventually it just fizzled out and they kind of burned out, which makes sense. Losing a
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl is so hard. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you have the shortest off season of any other team other than the team that won, but I mean, losing in the biggest game of the season is so hard. And then to come back next year and try to do it again, I just think they had the wrong attitude about it. But now they're a year removed. They don't have to worry about any of that. They got a lot better. They kind of galvanized the team a little bit, fixed up their secondary, which has been a problem for years and years now. They got one of my favorite players in the draft defensively. This is going to be the best team in the division without a doubt. I mean, they're just so much better than Washington and the Giants in comparison, and I think they're going to like make that leap over the Cowboys this year. They're poised to have a pretty like stellar year for sure.
Yeah, I like the Eagles a lot. My prediction is Eagles at Detroit for the NFC Championship game. I think the Eagles. I think what they went through last year was a bit of overconfidence. I think after beating Kansas City in Kansas City and kind of exercising some demons, off that, humongous Super Bowl loss they took to the Chiefs, I thought they just thought that they were going to run through the rest of the NFL. And the truth of the matter is that if MVS catches that bomb from Mahomes, they lose that game, and the bleeding would have been worse because, we watch film. So what are these guys doing? I mean, these are professional defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators that sit back and they pick this stuff apart. And the weakness in the Eagles was the secondary. I mean, I can't remember a time where I cashed out more against one team than last year versus the Eagles. I just kept betting against them because their secondary was horrendous. And their head coach, Nick Sirianni, kind of just feels like they were just going to sleepwalk their way through the division and get back to the Super Bowl. And that's not what happened. And they didn't make any adjustments. Okay, James Bradbury and Darius Slay, they're just names at this point, man. They're just names. And it was proven by them taking Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell in the draft because they know these guys are getting old. Bradbury was never good. And Debo proved that, called him out to his name in the press. The guy never responded. If a man calls me out and I don't respond, I don't deserve to put on my cleats. I'm sorry. And they got destroyed in their own building by the Niners. That was telltale sign for me, number one. And Darius Slay is 33, man. Going to be 34. I mean, they lost to everybody, and it was everyone they shouldn't have lost to. The Giants, the Seattle Seahawks, Drew Lock throwing dimes to win games. I mean, Tampa carved them up. I mean, Baker Mayfield carving up your second is bad. That's bad. Not that those guys are scrubs. They're professional football players. But we're not talking about Joe Burrow. We're not talking about Patrick Mahomes. We're not talking about Josh Allen. We're talking about teams that you should beat that you lost to. And so I feel like bringing in OC Kellen Moore and revamping this entire offense is going to be huge for this team. I think them having Saquon Barkley is going to be enormous for this team. I'm not a big fan of the Jason Kelsey retirement, but I don't think it's going to hurt this team like people are thinking it's going to hurt them. Maybe they will, and maybe they won't tush push that much. Who knows? But they can score. They can score. Okay, that offensive line will be the best line Saquon Barkley has ever run behind. Jalen Hurts is a dual threat that I think will take his game to another level. Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown are the best 1-2 punch in the entire league. And they have a decent tight end in Dallas Goedert. And they know how to win in their building. They're going to be tough, man. They're going to be tough out. And I haven't even talked about their defense yet. Their defensive structure this year should put them back into the prominent role in driving that car to winning the NFC East. I mean, Nakobe Dean still hasn't flashed and haven't seen what he can do. He's a good player, man. Jordan Davis, beast. Jalen Carter, beast. They go back and they get Gardner Johnson back from the Detroit Lions. That is a good pick. I saw some game-saving tackles this guy made in the Super Bowl versus the Chiefs that would have put that game out of reach for them. At least they only lost by 3. Vontae Maddox, decent. It's just slaying Bradbury that you're really worrying about here, man. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And they bring in these 2 young kids. Let these kids play. Let these kids play, man. Because you are going to lose games at the hand of your secondary again if you keep this up. I mean, I waive Bradbury. I think that guy's trash. I can live with Slay, but he's older. You know what I mean? And so I'm going to be very interested to see how they run this offense because a lot of people are pontificating that it has changed under, Kellen Moore, and you're going to see more running. You're going to see more power runs. You're going to see more zone runs, and they'll still throw the ball. But like you alluded to earlier, they didn't run the ball enough last year. DeAndre Swift didn't touch the ball enough last year. Jalen Hurts was trying to do too much, and it cost them when they had to score. They couldn't. I always believe that it's run for dough, throw for show, even in today's NFL. At the end of the day, if you cannot sustain drives running the ball, you cannot win. And I think they finally are going to realize that, which is why they got Saquon, and I think they're going to find their way, at least at worst, to the NFC Championship game. Opening day, I think they beat the Packers in Brazil. I think the Packers are going
That's
to
going
take
to be
us.
chaos. I don't
I
know.
think the Packers have taken a step back, and they should not have paid Jordan Love. I know they had really no choice, but my goodness, dude, that's disgusting. Jordan Love being the highest paid NFL player of all time is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
Jordan Love had 10 good games in his entire career. What has Jordan Love ever done to deserve money like that? That's disgusting, and now there's not going to be money for anyone else. I mean, the Packers, they're AJ Dillon is still on the Packers. I mean, come on. Come on. They have no stars. Jordan Love is not a star. Not to me.
Not yet. He's had one full season.
You pay him like a star. Eagles by 20.
Mm.
September 16th, they have the Falcons. I think they'll beat the Falcons as well. I think they will beat the Saints and the Bucks. The Bucks revenge game for sure. Now, what bothers me about this team is they have the early bye. And a team like this would really benefit from having a late bye, but it's early. They come off the bye and they got the dog pound. They should win that game. They got the Giants. They should win that game. I think they take their first loss here versus the Bengals on the road. I have this circled as one of my top 10 games of the year. Coming off that game, they have the Jags at home under the lights. They should win that game. They should beat the Cowboys. But I don't know. Cowboys play them tough. I'm going to give them an L there. Cowboys play the Eagles tough in Dallas. They always do. They'll beat the Commanders on Thursday night. I think they can lose to the Rams on the road.
It's on the road, yeah.
Rams throw the ball a lot, man, and I'm not, again, nothing has proven to me yet, even with these new guys, that they have fixed the leaky secondary. It was really, really bad last year. I mean, like I said, I can't remember a time I cashed more versus any other team than I cashed. Go back and look at the World of Matchups last year. I think it was like from like week 9 till the end of the season. Every week I was just like, yep, bet against the Eagles, bet against the Eagles, bet against. I didn't care what the spread was. Freaking Arizona went in there and tore them up. I mean, they were not good. So I like the Rams there. I like the Ravens the following week as well. They come back home and they'll beat up on the Panthers. They should beat the Steelers, but it will not be easy. It will not be easy. And they'll beat up against the Washington Commanders again. They will win the home game versus Dallas, and they will win their season-ending game versus the Giants. This is a team that's going to the playoffs. I would even maybe take the over. I see the over is probably 10, maybe 10 and a half. This is a tricky one because every year the Eagles choke one up on
Mm,
a primetime game, a
yeah.
la the Washington Commanders, if I remember correctly, maybe like last year or the last 2 years. Go in there on a Monday night, and everyone's like, Eagles by 40, they're favored by 10 and a half, and they lose by 7. Something like that. If they don't get tripped up like that, they will hit this OU. What is it
Ten
this
and a
year?
half. 10.5.
I could see them going either way. With the Eagles, I would flip a coin
It's
and
tough.
and take your best shot. I could see them winning 11. I could see them winning 10. It's just, are they going to get tripped up? I really believe the X factor this year is going to be the assurgence, the assurgence of bringing. Is that a word, assurgence, or
I don't know.
the resurgence, I should say, of their offense under Kellen Moore. They just got to tweak a couple things, man. They didn't run the ball, and I'm telling you, Saquon Barkley on the Eagles is going to be absolutely lit. He's going to be lit. Guys, I'm telling you, this was one of the best free agent signings in the entire league. I cannot believe that he went to the Eagles as a giant. As a giant, you go from the Giants to the Eagles. You're like, you could never go to New York again. You know what I mean? Like, you can never walk the streets of New York ever again in your life. You will be shot. So Tiki went at him. I mean, it was
Oh
crazy.
yeah,
It
it's
was
New York
crazy,
too. I
dude.
mean,
New
you're
Yorkers
gonna.
get mad. They don't, dude. New Yorkers do not like people from Philadelphia. They do not like the Philadelphia Eagles at all. At all. Knicks fans do not like the 76ers. They do not. I went to school and around that area. They don't like New Yorkers at all, bro. So I think the Eagles got their work cut out for them, but I do think they're going to win this division, and I do think that they are on their way back to, at worst, the NFC Championship game. Parting shots.
Training camp has started. I think that's my parting shot. It's just cool. It's fun to see guys throwing the ball around. It's fun to see people overreact to everything. It's fun
Mhm.
hearing the reports from camp. This guy's garbage. This guy's trash. It's just man, it's just good. It just feels like it's football's in the air tonight, and we only have one division left. And by the time we're done, the preseason will have arrived, and it'll be it's here. The NFL offseason, like doing this has made it feel a lot shorter. Like I feel like I'm just ready to like for the season now. It's
Yeah.
been really good going over every team.
Yep. It's a nice way to stay sharp, to make sure you are on point. It really helps fantasy. I told my buddies last year in the huge league that I'm in, the $600 buy-in league, that
Cool.
doing this was super helpful to me winning that league, because I know every Saturday I got to be up because Spencer's going to be ready and I'm going to be ready, and we have to know what we're talking about. We have to
Yeah.
study. We have to know. We can't just come here and give you guys information off at the top of the dome. Like, we have to know what we're doing. And I found myself making easier decisions last year because of it, and because of that, I won. And I've won a lot of leagues since we've been doing this. I think because doing this has really helped. My parting shots is also training camp. Guys, I'm telling you right now, if you think training camp doesn't matter, it matters. Training camp is the new preseason. And you guys out there that are just waiting for the season,
Yeah.
they're doing
True.
fantasy drafts or ready to throw your money down on over-unders or players and stuff, and you're not watching training camps, you're not watching what your team is doing in camp, you're not looking at these training camp battles, you're missing out. If you can go to training camp, go. I know the Raiders, I sent something to you, Spencer. I'm not sure if you got, the Raiders are hosting some free training camps out here for their fans. Like, guys, go to this stuff. If I could be in St. Joe watching the Chiefs, I would, because I'm telling you, this is where players make their hay about that 53-man roster. And guys are working hard out there because they know they're not going to get paid if they don't make the team. And so you're seeing little wrinkles that you're probably going to see in the NFL season. You're seeing all kinds of stuff, and it matters. You think, no, I'm going to take this guy, and then all of a sudden that guy is cut because this guy outperformed him. There's all kinds of battles going on all over the league right now. And don't play yourself thinking that you can just show up at your fantasy draft or show up at the sports book because that guy is a name,
Yeah.
because he's a name, and then some 6th round rookie out of nowhere takes his job. It happens all the time. So don't play yourself. Be alert, eyes open, ears open, and take notes on what is happening, because training camp, I'm here to tell you, is the new preseason. They're about to go to 18 games. They're about to go to 2 preseason games,
Yeah.
which are going to be nothing but glorified scrimmages. And so the meat and potatoes of what's happening before we kick the ball opening night every Thursday night in September, week 1, is going to be happening in your team's preseason. Don't play yourself. Eyes open. Stay woke. Next week, World of Matches is going to bring you what I think it's our final session here of breaking down NFL teams in the NFL South. So that should be one that is very interesting when we talk about the Carolina Panthers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who that nation, and the Saints, and who's my number 4 team in the South, and the Atlanta Falcons. World of Matches bringing the heat every week. We appreciate the love. Hope you guys are liking the shows every Saturday morning at 8:30, and then we'll probably take a little break, guys, and then we'll get ready to start handicapping games for you. because, while we're doing this, just to kind of keep everyone fresh on the comings and goings of the NFL, if you didn't know, now you know. World of Matchups is about handicapping games, okay? Spreads, picking winners, hoping
Teaser
you guys are,
tickets,
yeah,
whole
teaser
9 yards.
tickets, hoping you guys are listening and making money. We're not, we don't have crystal balls, but I like to think that Spencer and I are right more than we're wrong. So that is coming. That is coming, guys. So get ready. Enjoy the rest of the week, and we will see you guys next week. We're
See
out.
ya.